audible? Good evening.
Yes, you are very much audible, Manpreet. Please go ahead.
Okay. Right. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of an adventure in learning with Anil Sachdev, organized by Center for Leadership and Human Values at School of Inspired Leadership. Through this journey of self discovery, we have explored themes of storytelling, gratitude, deep listening, self leadership, and creativity. Each step has revealed how leadership is as much about inner clarity as it is about external action. In this session, we turn our attention to the ego, understanding its role in shaping who we are and learning how to lead it with purpose. I'm truly excited about today's session because the theme, leading the ego through purpose, touches on something very profound. In leadership, we often emphasize skills, strategies, and results. But the deeper journey is about transcending the self, moving beyond the ego, and aligning with a higher purpose. That is what creates truly value based and sustainable leaders. Leading the ego through purpose means shifting focus from personal validation to deeper meaning and contribution. And this is especially relevant for today's generation. When I see my students step into the corporate world, I notice how eager they are to prove themselves. That hunger is inspiring, but sometimes it risks becoming ego driven ambition. Success is often measured by speed, visibility, and competition. While ambition can drive progress, unchecked ego can also lead to burnout, conflict, and short term decisions. That is why this theme is so timely. For young leaders and professionals, purpose acts like a compass. It keeps us grounded during the change, helps build trust, and ensures that our growth is not just fast, but meaningful and sustainable. In a world filled with constant noise and comparison, it is purpose that separates momentary success with lasting impact. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Manpreet Kaur, your faculty co host for this session, and I teach accounting and finance courses at SOIL. So, as a finance professor, I often remind my students that numbers and valuations may guide us, but it is the purpose and values that ultimately anchor our decisions. In many ways, leadership is also about compounding, not just wealth, but wisdom, trust, and human impact. It is my privilege to welcome our host this evening, Mr. Anil Sachdev, who is not just the founder of School of Inspired Leadership, but also a visionary who has transformed organizations and touched countless lives through his wisdom and values driven approach to leadership. We are truly fortunate to learn from him and to be inspired by his vision. Alongside Anil, we are also honored to have with us Mr. Rajesh Kumar, a distinguished business and leadership coach, mentor, trainer, and advisor. With over three decades of corporate leadership experience at the CXO level, he has contributed immensely to the growth of some of India's most respected business houses, including Apollo Tyres, Eicher, Escorts, and many more. As the co founder and managing partner of March 4th People Craft LLP, Mr. Kumar has been instrumental in helping organizations design business and HR strategies that are both profitable and people centric. What stands out in his journey is his ability to build brands and businesses, not just in India, but across international markets as well. It is a privilege to have him with us today. His perspective resonates deeply with today's theme because he has lived this philosophy in action. We are honored to welcome Dr. Prince Augustine, a highly respected leader in the field of human capital and organizational development. Dr. Prince is a former executive vice president of human capital and leadership development at Mahindra Group, where he played a pivotal role in driving large scale business and HR transformation for over 3 decades. His career spans multiple industries from manufacturing and pharmaceuticals to finance, hospitality, and media. A professional certified coach and trained behavioral analyst, Dr. Prince has pioneered leadership development practices such as Mahindra Certified Reflective Conversationalist Program, impacting leaders in India and across the world. What makes his journey remarkable is how he has consistently emphasized the human side of leadership, reminding us that people and purpose go hand in hand. His valuable perspective on leadership, drawn from decades of corporate experience, will be valuable to all of us as we explore today's theme. Now, I would like to invite Anil sir for his opening remarks.
Well, thank you very much. And it's so wonderful to see many colleagues from the different organizations that I have been blessed to be part of. So thank you, friends, for joining. By way of opening comments, I'd like to say that this word ego, the way I am using the word ego, is in the spiritual discipline. We say there are the equipments of the body with its 5 senses. There is the breath that provides vitality. There is the emotional mind that makes us build trusting relationships. And there is the intellectual mind which helps us to discern and makes decisions. But these 4 is the world in which we mostly live. Is the world which is linked to objects, emotions, and thoughts. So most of our experiences are in this world of our equipment. But deep inside is that pure consciousness, the life-giving force, which is the one which is illumining all the 3 equipment of the body, mind, and intellect. And so, to transcend the equipment of doing, knowing, one has to appreciate the power within, which is the being, which is that infinite potential inside each human being. However, this so-called identity that we have, a mistaken identity of our own limitations, that my body is not good enough, I can't dance, I can't sing, my mind is not good enough, I can't build friendships easily, my intellect is not good enough, I'm not creative. All these lies that our equipment make us conditioned by, my understanding, thanks to what I learned from my spiritual teacher and some great wise teachers, is that actually we are not the limited equipment, but the ego keeps on taking us back to pleasure and the body. It keeps us restricted to matter rather than spirit. And the only time we are able to transcend our ego is when we know that we are in service of something much greater. That when we are in service of something much greater, which is a purpose where all our body, mind, and intellect are being inspired by some larger purpose, where we become instruments in serving the well-being of all, that's when we truly understand what the power of the inner witness is, and then the best work happens through us. So these are my opening comments to say, because I'm not limiting the word ego to the Freudian psychological connotation of the ego or id or ego and superego, as Freud would explain, but it is a far deeper understanding which is based on our Indian philosophy and spiritual dimension. And therefore we say transcend the ego to understand the power of purpose. Yes. So these are my opening comments. So please go ahead.
Thank you so much, and also for your opening remarks. And I think it has set the stage for further discussions on the topic. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Kumar to ask his question.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks, Manpreet, for that introduction. And thank you, Anil, for inviting me to co host this learning session. Spending time with you and learning from your thoughts and wisdom has always been favorite of all the young managers like us who were there, fortunate to be there with you in Aisha. And later, our careers, the way we manage teams and the brands were guided and shaped by the thoughts of you, especially, and all the leadership team in Aisha. And today, the topic, which has ego and purpose in the topic, is going to be very interesting as a qualified ICF coach, which I resonate with the topic. And I have a few questions which I would like to ask. The first one is I feel that ego, money, and love are three very important things on which the mankind moves. Good things happen in the humankind because of these three things. And even the bad things happen, I mean, or not happen. We have seen number of examples of things not happening because of money or uh, love or ego. Ego being in question. Uh, we would like to understand, though you mentioned about ego and introduced it briefly, I would like to understand what is the difference between the id and the superego, which you mentioned, Sigmund Freud's. We are not getting into that, but it will be very good to understand the difference between these three.
So the word, the way we use ego is that sense of identity which is in the material world. So, we get automatically by instinct attracted to good food, a good touch, seeing good things, having a good experience. So it's like the pleasure seeking part is mostly what the ego is defined as. And superego is really shaped more by our values, to say the stories we heard as children, the way we were brought up because of what in the Indian tradition we call sanskar. So that superego tells us this is the right thing for you to do.
Right.
And the ego is supposed to balance the need for pleasure with the need for actually being more values driven. And it's supposed to show us some kind of a path to make things happen. And that's how the psychologists put it. But you use three terms. So I like to connect all the three terms. See, if the kind of identity that you have is limited to say, oh, I have this qualification, this is my knowledge, this is the position I have reached, this is the status I have. And if you define yourself in those terms, in terms of who you are, in terms of education, position, role, wealth, then that's a very superficial way of defining yourself, because all these things are not the ones which truly matter. Who cares whether you have got 5 PhDs or you have only a high school graduation? Who cares how much money you have? I mean, you may have money and you may be happy about it, but who cares? You may have a name, so who cares? Ultimately, each one is determined by what difference did I make to this world. That means, did I make the world better than what I found it in whatever role I did? The role of a parent, the role of a grandparent, the role of a friend, the role of a teacher, whatever was given to me. Did I add value? And so the question is that all the talent that has been given to me, what difference have I done with that talent? What difference have I made? If I have used the talent that has been given to me, part of my material is genetic material that is given to me, but a large part is the way I have been brought up and the way I have gained out of the experience, the way, because all of us are sitting on the shoulders of great people who have contributed in our own journeys. There are so many amazing people who have contributed to wherever we are today. So it's because of them that even we use the words. And because of them that we think of the thoughts. And there is not one task you can do without the partnership of someone else. So when we know that everything is collective and that we are playing our own role, and if the role that we are playing is always dedicated to, with the best of our abilities, making a difference, then I think we are serving a cause. So, I always tell our students something I learned from my own spiritual teacher, that if you are inspired by a cause that truly matters to you, there are many of my colleagues from Aisha Consulting. ECS was just an idea, it was just a story.
Yeah.
But we came together with it, telling ourselves a powerful story that India's economic development without spiritual impoverishment was the idea whose time had come. It was not about the founder of Anil Sachdev. It was not about Sarthak Roy Chaudhary or Sanjay Chaudhary, my friends who are on this call today, or anyone else, or Devu Bandyopadhyay or Arvind Arora or the rest of us. The people were serving a cause that got the best out of us. And our clients trusted us because they said, these people are not just talking about making money for us and making money for themselves and building a brand for themselves, but they are here for a particular cause. So even though we had zero experience in management consulting when we started, people began to trust us because of the power of the cause that we were standing for. Similarly, in Grow Talent, the company which rapidly became the #1 HR company in the country, we had a cause, helping organizations and people to realize their full potential. Or now in Soil, for example, the cause that we are building leaders who have deep character, who think with whole system thinking, and they lead with enthusiasm. So there is a cause. So ordinary people become extraordinary because when they have that very powerful cause in their hearts and they deeply love that cause, leadership happens to them. As a result of that, they get rewarded by society, and money is just one of the rewards that you get for serving a cause. But you build trust, you build relationships, you build the intangibles. So I think all the three terms that you talked about, to me, the central part of that is it is not about putting focus on you and yourself, but it is about we and us and what the world requires. And when you derive power from any particular cause that resonates deeply in your heart, I think you do great work, and others around you join hands to do great work. And remember, it's never about the founder, it's about the cause that the founder was trying to espouse.
Yeah.
And at least that's what I'd like to say in response to your question. Yes.
Thank you. And so talking about ego, uh, most of the time, I think ego is the most misused and misunderstood word all the time, because most of the times it is used in its negative connotation. But you spoke about the success of Asha Consultancy and Grow Talent. Was there a factor? Was there?
Yeah. Sorry.
Was there?
It's okay.
Somebody's device needs to be muted. Tillai, if you can mute the device from where the sound is coming.
Good series. Just began.
Other one which is good is hostage.
Can the admin person, please?
Aubrey, I think we are getting some sound from your device. I think
The British Prime Minister's husband is taken over by hostage. It's on Netflix.
Okay. Can you, Aubrey, can you mute your device?
So how are you?
Tillai, can you mute?
Yeah, I got chikungunya. That is another.
I think Soil admin would be able to do it, Anil.
Tillai, can you please mute?
Mackie had malaria.
Malaria is okay, but chikungunya
is worse than that. Yeah. But when he recovered, he said, I've been ill a lot of time, but
Tillai, are you there?
I've never felt so horrible
I'm
in my
calling
life.
Tillai, sir. Just give me a minute.
And this is worse, you said.
Yeah. You know what happens? The joints and all pain. And then because of that, you feel a helplessness. Like night, I keep an attendant because I'll keep him for 2 more days.
Yeah.
Because getting
Aubrey,
going to
I'll
Aubrey,
ring
are
him
you
up.
able to hear us, Aubrey?
Oh,
Sorry, one minute.
Anil, I'll
Aubrey?
ring him up.
Yes,
Sorry?
that'd be a good idea. If you can, if whoever has got his number
1
could
minute.
ring him up,
I have it.
yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Hello, yeah?
Aubrey, your entire conversation with your wife, we can overhear because you're not on mute. So
Okay.
your conversation is coming into our conversation here. Can you kindly mute your device, Aubrey?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, please.
So going
continue.
back, I was mentioning that ego is misunderstood and misquoted word. Probably it is a negative connotation is meant most of the times. But also, as we understand, there is a positive ego as well. I wonder when you're talking about the success of Aisha consultancy or Grow Talent, was there a positive ego which was at play? And a subsequent question would be, do we need to lead the ego, or is it the other way around that the ego leads us?
You see, as I mentioned to you some time back, there is this dimension of our identity which we say we take pride in our country or pride in a team or pride in a collective effort. That sense of pride that we want to do something for our country or our team or our organization, and we feel we are special, like in sports team, when they take great amount of pride in their team and their track record, for example, that inspires each other to set new targets and to beat those. That's that identity and brand that you build, the brand of winning together and the brand of making a difference. Those are the positive dimensions that inspire yourself to go the extra mile when you run for the country, when you play games for the country, when you're representing the country. It's similarly the same thing. You can have a sense of doing it in your company and in your team as well, because you're building a special brand there. Those are positive dimensions. But the moment you get confused with saying, I am the doer, I am a great leader, I am the one who has built this company, or the company can't do without me, or I am the country, like it happened in the case of some leaders, that the country is me. The moment this kind of thinking comes in you, that means you are gone. Because now you are actually talking about you becoming bigger than the cause that you stood for. And therefore, that is when the downfall of a leader starts, downfall of a community starts, downfall of a country starts, and a team starts. But the moment we always have focus on the larger cause or the purpose on why we are together, what's special? Many organizations are created with what we call the founder spirit, right? But later on, we hire professionals, later on, new CEOs come, and sometimes they even forget what the original purpose was, because all that they are lost in is making more and more money and trying to justify their share price and their own incentive schemes. So I think that is where the disconnect happens, and that's what leads to the downfall of those organizations, because then they are beginning to just become machines, rather than have that spirit and the soul with which the organization started. So that's what I like to say.
All right. So we can lead the ego, or the ego leads us. What do you think?
As I said, that ego is a concept beyond the equipment of the body, mind, and intellect. And that concept keeps on bringing you back to the equipment. But you understand that this ego needs to be the way our spiritual teacher would explain. Swami Chinmayananda would explain that you need to sublimate your ego, meaning you have to find a worthwhile cause for which you have to dedicate your sense of identity and ego towards doing something which is far bigger than yourself. When that happens, you do some amazing work. And that's the key to sustainable high performance in any field.
Right.
Where you are dedicating your ego. So in other words, you always lead your ego. The ego never leads you. The moment ego leads you, your downfall has begun.
Anil, last one from me. Taking out some more water from the reservoir of knowledge that you are, uh, uh, have you come across a situation in your life, your personal experience, where ego helped you or came in your way to achieve your purpose?
See, right from the first job I had, and my colleague Visti Banaji, I remember he and I went with Mr. Krishna Swami to interview in IIT Madras engineers in 1976. And the very first, and Visti and Krishna Swami, I was the youngest amongst the three, younger by a year to Visti. And they said, today you will give the pre-placement talk in IIT Madras. My very first time, I'm myself a trainee in Tata Motors, Telco as we called it. But when I spoke to the students, I actually felt I owned Tata Motors. Not that I am the chairman or CEO or shareholder, no, but as a representative of the company, I felt I owned the company. So similarly, when I joined Aisher and went to the same IIT back to recruit people, and nobody knew Aisher, but I spoke with all my heart about the fact that Aisher, it was as if my company. So I think it's when you own something that you do, the company you work for, the organization with whom you belong to, if you treat it as if it's your own, and there is no difference between you and the entity because you actually feel like that, you completely identify with the organization, then I think you always do your best work. And in my experience, there are so many experiences which are of this kind where I have felt a sense of ownership for whatever we stand for and we are collectively doing together. On the other hand, let me give an example, and I can give a more recent one, but when I was heading the factory operations in Aisher and I was heading operations in the Faridabad plant, I remember that my colleague, Mr. N.S. Joson, who was our industrial engineering manager, I trusted him completely. He was a highly qualified engineer. He was developing a new incentive scheme for workers. And at that time, we managed to give some commitment to the unions, which was based on a wrong calculation. Mr. Joson, who was a very qualified person, had made a wrong formula. I did not check it. And we made a commitment, and the union was gaga and celebrated. And they went and announced at the gate meeting. But now we knew we had made a blunder. So my colleague BP Singh came and talked to me, "Arey Anil, aapne ye kya kar diya?" Suddenly we understood that this is a serious blunder we have done. But now how does one now admit to all the factory workers, the hundreds of workers and staff and the union that actually the management has signed a wrong agreement? It's a blunder. But I went and talked to the union leaders, and we brought some other well-trusted opinion makers in the plant, Bacha Prasad, Hari Prasad, those kind of
Daga was also.
employees. Shiv Kumar Dangi, we brought all of them
Dangi.
together and said, I began by saying in Hindi, भाइयों मुझसे गलती हो गई और ये हमारी कैलकुलेशन गलत है और हम चाहते हैं कि हम आपसे इसके बारे में सीधा बोलना चाहते हैं कि हमसे गलती हो गई है, पर हमने जो एग्रीमेंट साइन किया है हम इसको इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं कर सकते. We cannot implement because it's a genuine mistake of calculation. You know, the union leaders burst out laughing. साहब हमको तो पता था कि ये गलती हुई है और हमें आपको बुला के बोलोगे. हमने कहा ये कैसे हो गया? मैंने कहा यंग वर्क्स मैनेजर आए हैं हमारे, हाँ 27 साल के वर्क्स मैनेजर हैं, तो इनसे गलती हो गई है. So it's very interesting how they laughed and they did not hold us to our promise, and they came back to a normal negotiation and we signed a reasonable agreement because they said we are not interested in destroying the company. We don't want to take more. But I had to apologize to the union. I had to apologize to all the employees that we had done a mistake. And this was when I was very young. There are many more incidents, but I think this is where I thought I'll tell you both the collective and this. But I know that Prince has many wonderful questions and so has Manpreet. So thank you, Rajesh, for the amazing questions. So Prince, over to you. Yes.
Thank you, Anil, and thank you, Rajesh. You really opened it very well, right? So I will move to a different. I will not touch upon these things. Anil, something which you have been very closely involved. You have been a mentor for us. In the Mahindra Group when we are looking at Rise, right? Rise was not idea of any one of us. It was actually an idea of Scott Kurtzman. But from there emerged an idea that the time to repurpose Mahindra Group, it was somewhere around 2010. Till then, we moved with the idea of Indians are second to none. And we realized that it is something big that we are going to this thing. Because I went to Anand Mahindra 3 times, that Indians are second to none really does not connect. He says, no, Prince, we must speak of the pride of India, etc. I came to you also, Anil, twice there. He says, you wait for an opportune moment when this would become really important. Right? So at that time, we probably would look at repurpose. So my question to you, when do you really repurpose? Because you guided us, right? And we took RISE as the moment, right? And we put driving positive change, which connects globally, which is very culture neutral, right? And from there came the what and the how. So then we created a complete transformation. If you look at, you were involved in the complete HR transformation. Identity of HR itself got this thing. The new Mahindra leadership competencies, the Mahindra Leadership University, the entire talent management framework. Grow Talent was involved in the complete assessment rehaul. Vristi Banerjee, who was over here, was also involved in checking how the Renaissance global leaders would come in place. We use that same this thing to go to the brand. We use the same thing to grow to R&D, right? And that probably created, I don't know whether the present growth, etc., you will be able to say from a distant point of view that what is your impression of Mahindra Group then and now with the implementation of RISE and with the co-creation of a new purpose of driving positive change by challenging conventions and using alternative thinking as the means to create that. Over to you, Anil.
Yeah, thank you, Prince. I think you all did amazing work, and I think every time I think about the work you did, it gives me an immense sense of excitement and pride of having also personally witnessed that journey. See, in all great organizations, purpose is already present. Because all great organizations, in their spirit, in the way they work, there is a sense of larger purpose that makes it happen. In Aisha, we never formally stated our Aisha purpose, but there was a spirit which was permeating the whole organization, which kept all of us together, the glue. What Mahindra did very nicely, and you know the whole story, you have presented it so often as an award-winning case study, including the Harvard case study. When you were entering the United States and your branding consultant came and said they want to come and meet all the stakeholders in India, and then they came back and presented to you that this is what we have found. And through their words, you recognize that this is something quite remarkable because people are using a language to describe the organization, which is not the existing so-called purpose of being the best, the Indian being the best and so on. But this is giving you something completely different. So the fact that you were creative, you were open, you were innovative in recognizing that these people had come and interviewed everybody, including your dealers and including your stakeholders, and they had articulated on your behalf what this organization's uniqueness was all about. And then you decided that let's use this opportunity to define a new purpose. You asked a question, when should an organization repurpose? I think there are three contexts for that. One, when you are entering new markets. Two, when you are significantly getting into new areas. Three, you are acquiring or merging with large organizations. And also when there is a significant generational change taking place in leadership. These are the occasions to repurpose because many new people who join, they don't have a sense of that intangible. They may have heard some occasional story, but since they are not part of it, they don't have that nostalgia that other people have and they begin to talk about their good old days. So I think it's time for them to, in the present, create something which is magical, which makes them look forward to coming to work every day. So the process is more important rather than the words that come out. The process where people all sit down and say, okay, this is where the organization has started. What difference have we actually made to the lives of our stakeholders? What do our even ex-employees talk about the company? What are the current employees and different generations? When a young 20-year-old who's joining the workforce, how is that person describing the organization? Similarly, how do our dealers talk about us? Our distributors talk about us behind our back? How do our suppliers talk about us? How do the members of the community in which we operate our offices and plants, how do they perceive us that we have an office here? And how do our employees, the managers who come and do their parking around that area, what impact do we have on the society? What difference are our plants making to the places where they exist? Does the local community curse us for having a plant there? Or do they bless us for being there with them? So what kind of difference have we made to the lives of the stakeholders? And when we are thinking about the future and how the future is unfolding, and we find that the new generation of people that are entering, they are talking a very new language. Is our language relevant to the language that those people are speaking? Because we need to include them in this new language, the new story, because everything is a story. The purpose is also a story, right? So what's the new story that is emerging? What are the new embellishments we need to have? So that process of having conversation for people from straight from inside out, it's an extraordinarily important process. And then from inside out, we must have conversation with all our people and our stakeholders. And from outside in, we must watch carefully. How is the world changing? What are the new things that are going? What are the new possibilities for making a difference to the lives of people? We cannot close our eyes, for example, to the huge difference on things like the carbon footprint and the water footprint and all these things which are so extraordinarily important for large organizations. Are we really creating a future where people will thank us for what we did rather than curse us for destroying everything and made money for themselves? So I think it's very important for the purpose conversation with these specific contexts that I have described. But remember that anytime we invest in this dialogue, it's not just doing 2 or 3 workshops and making your corporate communications team then announce some new branding and new purpose. But a real purpose exercise touches the heart of every employee in the organization to include them into what would unlock the potential in their hearts, because ultimately the customer of the purpose work is ultimately all the people who belong inside the company, employees of the company, and through them, the partnerships with all other stakeholders. So that's what I would like to say.
I'm able to resound the same way Anand spoke, the way you spoke. We made a video, extempore video. Same language, he brought it out so very nicely, Keep that this purpose is nothing new. It is something which people have been living with. So we took it right up to the contract labor. We'll not imagine. So Anil had said,
fantastic. Yeah.
In fact, in many youngsters, we have got Anil into an appreciative inquiry process, if you'll recall it. About nearly 1,000 people, we are trained as risetters. Anil, recollect the first few batches, you yourself led it, So
Yes.
it is so what you say resounds in a very big way. If you are able to connect purpose to each and every segment, stakeholders, all the stakeholders, including employees, government, right? So I still remember Mahindra was about a $10 to $11 billion group. Today it's about $23 billion. In between there was SsangYong, which they experimented with. So if SsangYong was successful, it would have been a $28 billion. But failures are also stepping stones to success. So it's been a really wonderful journey, and Anil, you have shaped thinking of many of us. So with your permission, can I ask one more question?
Please go ahead.
Yes, please.
If you recollect, somewhere in June or July of 2024, the conversation Dr. Pawan Goenka, Rajesh Jejurikar and me had with you, that we are in the cusp of a growth. Therefore, the need to prepare our minds, our mindsets, and the cultural ethos becomes very important, right? And it is that, and then you were involved with the larger set of leaders having the same set of conversations. At that point of time in 2004, there was no identity for the group, etc. So the whole identity program, the whole connecting everybody across, and how the leadership mindset. You had 2-3 workshops, organizational restructuring, etc., which goes hand in hand. So we were lucky to have a very good mentor like you, who stood with us in a journey of 10 to 11 years. So it's not everybody would have this thing. So when you are getting into a large purpose, repurposing of yourself, and how do you ensure that you have the right mentor? And is mentorship really a very strong, what do you call it, sine qua non for success?
See, first of all, you're very kind to describe me in that way, but I think, when the organization is ready for having a genuine conversation like that, then you tend to attract the right mentors because, see, I was as excited about your journey as you were. And to me, I felt that this is a very worthwhile work. And there was great magic in the words that we were describing. When we said accept no limits, when we said, making a difference, driving positive change, that through alternate thinking, these were words which deeply resonate with people. And, the heart is 100 times more powerful than the head. You may get some very smart consultants who can advise you to develop the right strategy. They can make you very beautiful presentations using extremely strategic language. But when you have to touch the hearts and minds of people, you require somebody who will work with you on impacting the heart. And so choose a mentor who identifies with the same emotion, resonates with your emotions. And this can't be faked. This can't be, that I've come to do some ads and I've just tried to write some copy and my job is over. But person should feel the same with you. And the person must be somebody, the language the person uses and the person's authenticity should resonate deeply with your own heart and say, I can trust this person because this person gets it. He speaks the language of the heart, because this is all about how people feel deep inside. It's not about what they say in terms of prepared statements. And this is not about the advertising campaign at all. It's about how people actually how do you reside in the hearts of people? So I think that is the most important language here, more than anything else. That's what I would like to say. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I will see if anyone else has questions, then I'll come back to you.
Sure. Thank you, Prince. Yeah, Manpreet, go ahead.
Yeah. I think, sir, through your answers, we can, generally say that ego is often seen as a barrier. But I think we have to channelize it with self-awareness and purpose so that we can transform it into a source of confidence and resilience. So I have a very interesting question for you, sir. So since you, as you know that I am the one who teach finance courses, so I often see quarterly results and shareholders' expectations push organizations towards short-term gains. But when we look at institutions like Tata's and Infosys, it is their deep sense of purpose that sustains them over generations. So, in your experience, how can leaders ensure that purpose doesn't get overshadowed by the financial performance?
For sustained high performance over long periods of time, you require a special culture in an organization. For a few years, you can achieve quarterly results of a certain kind, and you can also dress up the quarterly results by doing mergers and acquisitions and those kinds of things, right? And you can get away by showing something to the street, and before they find out, you are gone because maybe you've gone on to the next thing to do. But truly great organizations which build sustainable long-term performance, they have unique cultures, and those unique cultures are based on very sound values. And that is the values and the culture which are nothing but values in action. They are the ones which are giving the long-term commitment. That's the glue in which the purpose resides. Because purpose gets inspired by what? By the values that exist.
Correct.
And those values cannot be measured because, see, all great companies, I have a dear friend called Dr. Carl Erik Schwabe who lives not too far away. I'm in Norway today, but he lives in Helsinki. He's in some ways called the father of knowledge management. He's the man who first designed a monitor called the Intangible Assets Monitor. In fact, Infosys was the first company in the world on their balance sheet in their balance sheet, they announced the intangible assets.
Correct. Intellectual capital, yes.
And he said that there is the community for which you serve their needs through products and services. So you are creating a brand. Then inside the organization, you have human beings with tremendous potential. So when you appreciate human beings, help them to understand their potential and realize it, you are creating human capital, which is appreciating, provided you are treating them in the right way. And the organization is nothing but a set of structures, systems, and processes. So it's like the structural capital, which is connecting human capital to community capital, which is brand. So if you look at this powerful concept of Carl Eric Schwabe, why did he say this? Because he said that, for example, those in Infosys, the tangible assets were less than 1% of the market value of Infosys. All their cash and their material assets were just less than 1%. So they said the reason why people trust Infosys and the shareholders trust is it because of consistently using the right values. When they gave guidance to the stock exchange, they were being completely authentic and truthful. And if they could not give guidance, they would say, why would they not give guidance? In the way they treated their customers, in the way they treated their employees. It was that. And that part of, I think, Murthy and Nandan and everyone else who set the tone to say this is a company in which this is going to be the way we are going to do our business. And they were in turn inspired by the Tatas. And I would also say they were inspired by companies like Eicher, because they hired a few key people from Eicher in Infosys, and they understood how there was some very significant difference about those individuals compared to the run-of-the-mill senior leaders that were available in the market. So I think even in financial terms, if you want to have some quick growth and make some quick money, then of course this doesn't apply there. But if you're looking for a brand whom you could trust, now look at what's happened in Microsoft. Microsoft was a great organization, but when Satya Nadella came and saw the power of what this company's legacy was all about, but what difference it could make, provided you helped them to now reconfigure what they were doing towards a new sense of purpose. And when he got everyone inspired around the new way of doing things, I think the magic of Microsoft began to unfold. It was already present, but it required that repurposing, as Prince would call it. And Microsoft found that new purpose and new connection with people, and it caught the imagination of every employee to say Satya is showing a way. But it is not about Satya. It's about the new magic that was being talked about, the new path that they were taking. So that's the most important. So that's what I wanted to say. Yeah. Maybe it's time to open up conversation with the audience, because a lot of people perhaps may have questions.
Okay. So can I ask one more question if you permit?
Okay, go ahead, Manpreet. Go ahead.
Okay, so sir, I read that leaders are remembered not for the positions they held, but the values they live by. So if you had to give one message to leaders on how to be remembered as purpose-driven rather than ego-driven, what would that be?
See, it's very simple. Every person who works with you has some uniqueness.
Right.
Whether the person is serving you food in the canteen, or the person who's cleaning the floor or securing your premises, or the person who sits next to you as your colleague and who is your 2IC. Everybody has some uniqueness. If you notice small things about people and you begin to appreciate them for who they are and begin to thank them for what they do, it doesn't cost any money, but it means the world. If you begin to write small thank you notes, I just had this, or some small gestures. I remember once I felt like, my colleagues in ECS, I was feeling very good about something they did. I just walked across to the pawn shop. Next to that was a chocolate shop. All the money in my pocket, I bought all the chocolates and I came back and I distributed to everybody and saying something nice to each one of them because I genuinely meant it. So I think you need to create excuses for you to appreciate people around you and thank them for what they do. So, small celebration is a party time, because it's not like you always wait for great things to happen.
Correct.
I think if you can create that culture of people coming together, creating a community, learning together, taking a responsibility and remembering how to value each other, and remembering that these aspects are as important as doing the next big project, getting the next big money, and achieving the next big so-called quantitative target of volumes or manufacturing or market share or whatever that may be, is
Right.
celebrating the people inside, which really makes them then do the big things in their life.
Right.
So
I
that's
think the
such an
soil culture
important.
is coming from here only, your thought process and the kind of experience you had in the past. And we truly appreciate, the culture we have at soil.
Thank you.
So I would request audience to ask their questions. So we have questions from Srinivasan sir. So, sir, would you like to unmute and ask question to Anil, or you want me to read it from the chat box?
No, no, I can uh, ask the question myself. Thank you very much, sir, for such an insightful discussion dialogue. One thing you said, when the ego becomes larger than the purpose, then that is the start of the downfall of the organization. But generally, how to, and I further believe that an organization culture is more of a trickle-down approach, top-down approach, and trickle-down effect rather than bottoms up or whatever it may be. How does the leaders, especially in the top, how do you make them realize, or how do they recognize that it is their ego which is influencing the decision making than the larger purpose? Because they are not deliberately doing it, it is unconsciously happening without their realizing that it is the ego which is coming on the forefront. Otherwise, they would not have acted in the fashion they would have acted. So, how to overcome this challenge of ego coming in the forefront than the larger purpose in an organization?
See, Srini, first of all, there is no substitute to experience. Some leaders will go the ego way, have some learning out of that, make some mistakes, and then realize that actually this is not the one which is really important. On the other hand, when a leader is in a position of power, it has that kind of a tendency. You have to find people whom that person also trusts and provide authentic feedback to those people so that then those people can mentor this person. There could be, for a senior person also, there could be peer group, colleagues, there could be board members, there could be others. So basically, it's a question of providing feedback, because if a person is operating from ego and you find it very difficult to even speak truth to power, because you cannot give that person feedback, because person may not appreciate your feedback, because the person is looking at you as somebody who is giving the feedback with some other intention. But if you choose a source for giving the same feedback, maybe the same feedback you wanted that person to realize will now be accepted more because people trust the source of the feedback. That doesn't mean you should not give authenticity in your own behavior. You should always speak up for what you believe is right. And you should always make sure that your work is first rate. See, if a egotistic person is spoken to and somebody gives that person with courage feedback that the person's ego is getting in the way, but the person who has the right to give the feedback must be excellent in their own work. Because if you are not excellent in your own work and then you give this feedback, the person will say, okay, I hear your feedback, but how about you looking at your work yourself? So I think if we do our work well and we are working sincerely and we are producing the highest standards in our own work, that gives us the right to then speak up. And then the leaders also value such people to saying this person is excellent in the work. Now the person is choosing to give me feedback about my approach, which is in his opinion or her opinion, not in the interest of the organization. So person may temporarily get angry with you, but later on the person will say, you know what, this person I really look up to. And if this person is telling me this, I think I need to reflect. And I think bit by bit, these things can manage. And that's why you have processes like 360 feedback. And then, the senior people are spoken to. And then I think that sometimes they agree to have a coach. Sometimes they have other experiences of learning from other peer group. And then change can be brought about. But of course, for every story I tell about positive transformation, there are enough stories of people who never change and continue to operate from ego, in which case, it's too bad for them, because they may so-called produce good results. They may go from one organization to the other where they may show financial success, but nobody will really appreciate them when they are gone. In fact, people will celebrate when they go rather than, they're continuing in the organization. So I think ultimately, for every action, there is a reaction, and people who live only at the level of ego will only build a group of. That's why, I love what General Field Marshal Manekshaw said. He said, be extremely careful about one thing, having yes men around you. Because if you have yes men around you, then your organization is doomed. And Field Marshal Manekshaw was a person who was perhaps the tallest leader of his time in the country. And I think he had the guts to tell, as you all know, you have seen that recently in that Sam Bahadur movie also, how he spoke truth to power to Madam Prime Minister, Mrs. Gandhi at that time. It took him extraordinary moral courage. So, and people said that about Sam Bahadur, that, only either this is, if there is this thing that is being said is completely unachievable, unless there is a Gurkha who says it's possible. So the Gurkha regiment had that kind of deep authenticity that when they said something will do, ho jayega sharp, then ho gaya. That kind of a thing. Then when they talked about that inspiration coming together, that was very special, because people with extraordinary love for a cause, extraordinary courage, I think wonderful things happen to them.
So we have few
Time
more
permitting,
questions.
I'll
Sorry,
ask
two
my
more
second
questions.
question
Okay,
later.
go ahead, Manpreet. The two more
Yeah.
questions, Manpreet, go
Sir,
ahead.
we have hand raisers, so I request Sumit ji to ask his question, and then followed by Sudhir ji.
Sure.
Sumit ji, you can ask your question.
Sure. So thank you, sir. So I just wanted to understand, in the age of AI, we see a lot of CEOs cutting jobs and celebrating it also. I mean, we see Salesforce, Citi, all these big announcements coming in the papers these days. What message? And I know we all are also, one of the favorite things I have is 70% of people today, only use their hands in the organization. Maybe 20-25% use their heads, and another 5% or 2% maybe use their hearts. Now we all know when we take out employees from jobs, and again this is just because you are able to do that. There's obviously a short-term benefit, but clearly this is a much bigger purpose that's compromised. People who've been aligned for many years. What message would you have for such CEOs, or to try and kind of create a different culture, different kind of mindset for the leaders?
So there are three parts to this answer. First, if you're in the manufacturing business, in many companies, employee cost is a small part of the overall cost. Material cost and conversion cost are often much bigger than employee costs in large manufacturing companies. So you should touch your employee cost the last, not for any other reason, because it's the category A costs lie in material cost and lie in costs like energy costs and many other things, downtime of machines and equipment and capital costs and so on. If you're in a service business, the cost for poor quality is extraordinary. If you lose trust with people because of you sacking people, and if people's hearts are not in their work, the service level will go down. Give them evidence. And when that happens, your customers will leave you. So, in the service business, people are always very, very afraid of losing customers and customer loyalty. And if you can prove through scientific research how trust of employees can win, help them win much stronger. And let's say you are in a difficult situation where some employees have to go, then you make a design team of employees from different functions, different departments, and ask them to find a solution. Take them out of the regular cost, put them into a new group like the innovation group, which thinks about the future of the company. So the existing business, their P&L, it gets improved, but now this group that you have taken out there is into a new investment, thinking of a future of the company. When you do things like this, I think remarkable things begin to happen, and you find new ways to raise revenues rather than cut down cost. That's what I would say.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Very useful.
Yeah, Dr. Sudhir, you can go ahead. After this, we'll take one more question and then we'll wind up.
Yeah.
Okay.
A very warm good evening to everybody.
Yeah.
So we had a very insightful discussion on the ego, and Rajesh sir also talked about the positive ego and negative ego. So, sir, my question is, in any case, can ego help us to move forward in life? Or like sometime it happens like if you don't have motive in life, ego gives you that purpose, right? Can we get to reach our purpose with the help of ego? Like,
I mentioned that if ego is about the collective identity of an organization, which gives you pride and inspires you to do more for serving society, then that's like the pride in the work. And if you want to call that the positive ego, we are very welcome. But I know you are a student of the Bhagavad Gita and you are an Ayurvedic doctor, which means you actually are treating people from inside out. So you understand that in that the science of Ayurveda and the spirituality that you are a student of the Bhagavad Gita, there the connotation of the ego is that it keeps on limiting you to the body, mind, and intellect. And in that sense, it prevents you from your spiritual growth. And therefore, the ego is considered as a false imposter. It's keeping you limited in your potential. And thereby, one has to learn to transcend beyond the ego so that one can really claim the real health inside, which Ayurveda also talks about, the real happiness inside, which truly matters, rather than just chase the disease or the symptoms. Right? So I think when
holistic
we are
thinking.
defining that inspired idea of inspired work and purpose, we are talking about connecting to the unlimited power within, which is real health, real happiness, real authenticity. And when we are talking about the limiting definition, it's like treating disease, which is the allopathic style of management, right? Which is all about treating the symptoms, treating the mind and making the mind feel good. So it's not an employee engagement activity to make people feel good, therefore you have a purpose. But actually it's a very authentic conversation on why do people have meaning in their work? And how are they contributing to creating genuine meaning? Then that's something else. So that's what I like to say. Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir. Thank you. A holistic approach has to be there.
Yeah.
That's very important.
Yeah,
Thanks a
absolutely.
lot, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Or should I close the session? Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, I think we should round up. We are taking 3-4 minutes off because in between we had a few minutes lost. But please continue. This should be the last because we have to honor everybody's time. Yeah.
Actually, why I'm asking this because my daughter is attending this program through YouTube live link, and she has asked me to ask this question to you. So the question is that in negotiations, when does ego become a strength?
Manpreet, can you speak up a bit more? I'm not able to hear you clearly. Yeah.
So am I
No, you'll have
audible
to come
now?
to the mic and you have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
come to the mic and speak rather
Yeah,
than moving away from the.
yeah,
Okay.
now you're audible. Go ahead.
Okay. So she asked that in negotiations, when does ego become a strength and when does it lead to a deadlock?
Very good question. What's your daughter's name?
She is Gurbani.
Gurbani. What a beautiful name. So Gurbani, just like it is written in Gurbani, in the Guru Granth Sahib, ego is your friend when it is all about bringing happiness to others, when it is doing seva. As Guru Granth Sahib also guides us, doing seva. Then ego is our friend. That identity that we, the Sikhs, for example, will do seva. That's a very positive identity, and that positive ego that a Sikh will never be a beggar. A Sikh will always learn. A Sikh will always protect others. A Sikh will always do seva. That identity that you have in your Sikhism and the Gurbani is a beautiful, positive ego. But the moment you say that everything that I do is because how great I am, and I don't acknowledge the help of others, then Gurbani beta, then it becomes negative, because now we are not paying attention to the contribution of others. And then that means, that is why the Guru Granth Sahib Guruji says is that hauma that comes, that I am the doer. When that becomes important, then you lose a touch with the collective, and then it's a negative ego. So thank you very much for asking that wonderful question, Gurbani. Yeah.
Right. So, great learnings, wonderful insights. Thank you, Anil, for your thoughtful answers. Your insights have truly deepened our understanding of today's theme. We are deeply grateful to each of our guests for their thoughtful questions and contributions. You have added immense value to this journey of learning, and we look forward to many more such conversations. I thank the organizing team consisting of Dakshita, Thillai, and Priyanka for coordinating the event so well. Thank you to our wonderful audience for your presence, attention, and curiosity. We hope today's dialogue leaves you reflecting on how each of us can align our own journey with a deeper purpose. We look forward to meeting you again in the next episode of An Adventure in Learning. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.